What's up, Average Daft fans? Welcome back to another video. Today is a full review of the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra. And no, I am not just going to replay the full review of the S24 Ultra from last year, although I probably could. I do want to give you my honest review, having used this phone for around 10 days, and tell you why I do firmly believe this is the best all-round phone maybe ever. Let's go. So before you start to comment and call people names, you have to hear me out. Remember, listen in ears, you have to hear me out. To be the best all-rounder phone, you have to cater to a lot of people's different needs. And for me, the Samsung being the only phone that has an S Pen built in puts it pretty high on utility and all-rounder for me, because there are a lot of people, and I think you can see from the absolute deluge of hate Samsung are getting for removing, not the S Pen Pen's still there, but removing the Bluetooth functionality from the still included S Pen has caused an absolute ruckus, which is kind of hilarious to see, but also absolutely fills one of the most frustrating parts about Samsung is just why? Why do you do certain things and why don't you do other things when you have the capability? For example, removing a 30 cents per unit, maybe it's not, let's be honest, it's not even as much as that. Removing a 3 cents per unit Bluetooth module just makes no sense at all, unless you're stocking a Bluetooth S Pen at Samsung.com for $80. So yes, the Bluetooth, the S Pen gives this an all-rounder point, if you like. Then we have to talk about media consumption. If you're someone that likes to watch, well, basically everything on your phone in your commute. I know people that use their phone in their house with TVs and tablets, but they just sit on their phone most of the evening watching or playing Candy Crush. And that's okay. But if you're one of those people, the Samsung might be one of the best to do it on, because it is now a larger 6.9-inch screen. And no, the screen itself isn't actually bigger, it's just the bezels have got smaller, but that's fine. It's still 6.9 inches and it's still 120 Hz with Quad HD Plus resolution and that Gorilla Glass Armor 2 with the anti-reflective coating. So even if you're watching your content outside in direct sunlight, this will be one of the only devices that will give you very, very limited glare. Every other smartphone on the market will give glare out the box. I am aware there are anti-reflective screen protectors out there, but that's not the point. The point is that out the box, Samsung have this on their main screen, so you don't have to buy one of those awful tempered glass screen protectors. But again, I'm not someone that actually uses or likes screen protectors or cases, but anyway, that's for a different video maybe. The display on the Samsung is class leading. There is no debate about it, no matter what anyone says. In fact, I can almost guarantee there will be no comments debating that the screen and display isn't top tier. So far we've got the utility of the S Pen, we've got the display. I mentioned in my previous video a few days ago that the speakers on the Samsung, in my opinion, have improved. By no means are they class leading. The Honor Magic RSR probably takes that biscuit, to be honest, particularly in a flagship camera phone class. Maybe the Asus ROG 9 Pro has better speakers, but it's damn close. So let's take things a bit deeper then. Let's talk about that software. Is there a software skin more customizable, snappier, cleaner, brighter than Samsung's One UI? Does any software skin offer you more functionality? Is there a software skin that has a feature that Samsung's One UI paired with the Good Lock app can do better? That's kind of a genuine question because I've yet to find one, and I've tried every software skin. No matter how close Google's stock software gets, and ColorOS gets, and OxygenOS and OriginOS gets, although Origin is definitely the closer for me. I don't know if it's just because I've got a thing for Vivo, but I really love the Chinese variants with OriginOS. But even then, if I'm being completely subjective and objective, Samsung's One UI just does it all. So, again, open to any suggestions or debates in the comments, polite, friendly debates. But I think Samsung's One UI is fantastic. Paired with the new Galaxy AI features and Google Gemini, the live chat I've talked about, the translation in real time, the photo editing tools. It's just honestly such a breeze to use. And of course, running that software, powering the display, you've got your Snapdragon Elite chip inside with a 5000 mAh battery. There is no getting around it. I will never be on side that now in 2025, a 5000 mAh battery is just not big enough, in my opinion. When every single one of your competitors is pushed to 54, 56, 58, or 6000 mAh, Samsung need to step up their battery game. And it ain't no silicon carbon. They've not upgraded the technology, which means the charging hasn't got any faster. So, yeah, again, battery is certainly one area that Samsung have just completely missed. And I know a lot of you are going to think, well, they've not upgraded anything. But to me, we've not talked about it yet. The design has changed. While maybe not visually, certainly in the hand. We've talked about the squared off corners and rounded. For me in particular, I really honestly couldn't care. But facts are facts, and ergonomically, the Samsung S25 Ultra is more comfortable to hold than the S24 Ultra. And it's lighter, granted, like a gram or two, but it is lighter. So they are and should be considered improvements. The one thing I would say as a whole, though, if you're sitting with the S23 Ultra, the S24 Ultra, or the new S25 Ultra, it all kind of rings true for all those devices. You've got One UI software, you've got very, very similar design, and you've got the S Pen built in. So while nothing I'm talking about is groundbreakingly new, it doesn't take away from it being the, say it after me, best all-rounder. And then, of course, we have to talk about the cameras. And I done a full camera comparison between the Vivo X200 Pro in a recent Versus video. I didn't choose a winner then. A, because it didn't need it. I asked you to choose for yourself. And B, because it's hard. I've mentioned this a few times. The versatility that the S25 Ultra has is basically unparalleled. You've got a quad camera setup, not found in many phones these days. You've got the Galaxy Gemini AI features. You've got different photographic styles. You've got the choice between a 12 megapixel photo, a 50 megapixel photo, a 200 megapixel photo. You've got the choice between a 1x photo, a 3x optical, a 5x optical, 10x hybrid, 100x max. Again, that versatility for me is, basically unparalleled. The closest out at the moment, can I add, is probably the Oppo X8 Pro in terms of versatility. But the camera app on the Samsung is better. It's cleaner now. They've changed that UI with One UI 7. They've changed it so everything's just a bit more accessible with your hand. Rather than having to use two hands because it's such a large device, everything's kind of where your thumb should be. The exception being the photographic styles. It could come down. Changing your video resolution could also come down. But once you've got them set, you're probably not changing them all the time anyway, so they have put thought into the placement and kept them up the top where you're never really going to change them photo by photo. Maybe you'll change it every other week or so, or depending on where you are, if you're on a holiday, you'll add a slightly different filter or style. So I appreciate what Samsung have done with the camera app, which enhances your camera experience. Now, are the photos in isolation as good as some of the photos you can get on the X200 Pro? No. The larger sensor on the X200 Pro lets in more light. Fact. The larger sensor on the zoom lens creates better 10x, 50x, 100x zoom pictures. Fact. And whatever Vivo do in terms of post-processing with their portrait images, I believe the X200 Pro delivers better portrait images. But in all of those categories, from main to zoom and portraits, it's not night and day. There's very, very little to choose from. We'd be nitpicking. And that's okay, because as tech files like us, we're allowed to nitpick. So Samsung have improvements to make for sure, in battery, in camera. But when we take a step back, and if we owned no phone, let's all just close our eyes and imagine a world where right now you own no phone whatsoever. So you're not upgrading, you've not got anything to switch from or get money in trade-in value. You're starting at a zero base with no phone. Can you honestly say that recommending the S25 Ultra to anyone would be a bad idea? I don't think it would. It's obviously a global version. It works on all bands, 5G, 4G, no workarounds. It connects with your Galaxy wearables instantly. It connects with Wear OS 4 watches. Your Google Pay, everything works. With most other phones that I review and love, there are some nuances, which means, and again, be honest, could you recommend the Honor Magic 7 RSR Chinese version to your mother or granny or grandfather, knowing that there will be some workarounds to do? No. And that's where Samsung, again, repeat after me, continues to be the best all-rounder. And if price is your issue, you're going to get One UI 7, you're going to get pretty decent cameras on the standard S25 or the S25 Plus. So there's 3 different tiers of pricing. But I want to finish my honest assessment speaking about price. No matter how good an all-rounder this phone is, you will never be able to convince me, remember without trade-ins, but you'll never be able to convince me that paying £1,249 for a 256GB S25 Ultra is okay. It's just not. And Apple, if you're listening, it's not okay for you either. We have to get to a point where large tech companies like Google, Samsung and Apple, who hold all the power in the Western market, have an open and honest conversation. Because people can't afford to keep upgrading year on year, yet people sometimes want to. People can't afford to drop their phone and not take out the care plan, because that's another thing that these larger companies will do. They will sell you the phone and then they'll sell your care plan. And then in the case of Samsung, they'll sell you the Bluetooth S Pen separately. And then in about 10 months' time, they're going to knock at your door and say, you know, that Gemini you've been using and loving for months now, you're going to have to pay for that. So not only are you paying for your cellular data, you're paying for your Google Gemini, you're paying for your extra accessories that used to come included in the box. And that goes for the charging brick. That goes for a case. Something that other phone manufacturers such as Vivo and Xiaomi and Oppo still include in their Chinese variants. And at a large scale of Samsung, Apple and Google, mainly Samsung and Apple though, because Google aren't actually that large when it comes to smartphones, they can afford it. Adding a nice premium case and a charging brick back in the box is the only way forward for me. Because this whole saving the planet nonsense, I'm kind of done with it. For every box that they take away a charger from, for every phone that they sell without a case, there's a cow farting in a field nearby, producing more methane and issues for our globe than putting a charger in the box. There just is. It's just common sense. And while there are certain things we can do to halt the deterioration, don't push it on technology. You have factories, power plants. Cobalt. I could go on for days about what tech manufacturers could easily do rather than impact us, the customer, by taking away a charging brick, by taking away a case. But again, maybe I should leave that for another video. I just think it's pertinent with the S25 Ultra being essentially a very, very, very close comparison to the S24 Ultra to talk about the other things. So, in this honest review of the S25 Ultra, what do I actually think of the device? I think if you are new to a mobile phone, if you never owned one before and somebody handed you the S25 Ultra, I think you've got probably the best phone on the planet. And I don't say that lightly. But we don't live in that world. We live in a world where you have a mobile phone in your hand probably as you watch this. And you should probably stick with that mobile phone. Because you don't need to upgrade to the S25 Ultra for £1,250. You could probably go and get an S23 Ultra for £400 or less. And therein lies the problem. The age-old battle of what we need and what we want. I'm not here to convince anybody to buy anything. It's always been your choice. Keep it your choice. And you don't have to justify it to anyone. That's the beauty of being nerds. Just do what you want to do, as long as you're having fun doing it. So if you do buy the S25 Ultra, congrats. You're getting one of, if not the best all-round phones of 2025 or any year previous. But if you're looking for excitement, something new, well, A, check out the Average Dad Tech Store, but B, look at Huawei. Look at the Mate X-T. Look at that Oppo X8 Pro. Look at the Vivo X200 Pro. Or even better yet, if you're in the market for a new phone, just wait a month or two. You're going to have the Ultra versions of the Oppo, the Xiaomi. It's going to be an exciting time. And those phones, for whatever reason, just excite me more. While maybe not as practical, just something nice about them. So I have found it, as you could probably tell at this point, really hard to review the Samsung. And I find that with their Z Fold series as well. It would be easy for me to just shit all over them. Much easier in the Z Fold line. But with the S25 Ultra, they're not doing anything wrong in terms of what they're offering. Other than the price, of course, and the iterative updates, but lots of other manufacturers do that. If for some reason you were waiting for this review to influence your purchase decision, I would strongly suggest you look at the phone you've got and think, can I hold on to it another few months? Because you'll have much more to choose from. But if you're like me and you want the latest and greatest from every smartphone manufacturer, go ahead, buy the S25 Ultra. You're going to love it. It just won't excite you. So, as you're aware, I do these type of videos every Sunday night at 8 with many more videos spread out throughout the week. If you haven't already, please smash subscribe. I appreciate you watching. We've managed to get to about 54,000 subscribers, which is about 53,500 more than I ever thought I'd get, so thank you. And I'll be back soon with new phones, exciting phones from the candy bar and foldable markets. Not just Chinese versions, we're going global, baby. Until next time.